All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us for today's presentation, Innovative Techniques for Online and Distance Library Users, featuring our librarians here, Marianne Hansen and Sheila Bonnand of Montana State University. While everyone continues to get settled in, I just want to take this time to tell you a little bit about IGI Global. IGI Global is a publisher of the latest research in information, computer science, and technology as applied to business and public administration, engineering, education, medical, healthcare, and social science with our books, journals, cases, and databases. You will find our presenters' research along with hundreds of other resources dedicated to the subject of library and information science in our InfoSci databases, hosting books, journals, teaching cases, and themed collections segmented by discipline and topic. Our databases offer thousands of course and research supplements. Currently, we are offering a free 30-day trial of our InfoSci databases so you can experience these amazing collections for yourself. For more information, please refer to our website or contact eresources@igiglobal.com. To get started with today's symposium, I want to review a few housekeeping items just to let you know how you can utilize GoToWebinar software and participate in today's web event. Here we're looking at an example of the GoToWebinar Attendee Interface, which is made up of two parts. The viewer window on the left, which allows you to see everything that the presenters will share on their screen, and the control panel at the right. Within that control panel is how you can participate in today's event, so let's look at that. By clicking the orange arrow, you can open and close your control panel. From the View menu, you can also set the control panel not to auto-hide when it's inactive if you prefer to keep it open throughout the presentation. The audio panel provides audio information. By default, you have joined the webinar via mic and speakers. Click Audio Setup to select your computer, speaker, or headset devices. Or if you prefer, you can join the audio via telephone by selecting Use Telephone. To use your telephone, enter the audio pin that is listed. Today's webinar will be very interactive and collaborative. We will reserve time at the end of the presentation for Q&A, but should you have a question you'd like to ask immediately, you can type it into the question box on your control panel. GoToWebinar also allows a hand raise function, so if our presenters ask a question and offer a raise of hands, click the hand button. As a final reminder, today's webinar will be recorded and everyone in attendance will receive an email to view the link of today's event. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Now I would like to introduce our featured speakers today, Sheila Bonnand and Marianne Hansen of Montana State University. Sheila Bonnand is a reference librarian and an assistant professor at Montana State University in Bozeman, Montana. Her research interests include information literacy, especially as it applies to distance and online education, and intellectual freedom issues. She has been involved in a project using web conferencing software for instruction for the past 4 years. Marianne Hansen is a reference librarian and professor at Montana State University in Bozeman as well. She is also the library's distance education coordinator. Her research interests include user experience, especially in the online environment, and outreach to tribal college librarians. At this time, I will turn the presentation over to our guest speakers today. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. Oh, welcome everybody. We're very excited to have you join us today. As Ann said, we do have a kind of set presentation today, but we would love to entertain any questions as you go, so please feel free to send us a chat question at any time during this presentation.
Yes, hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
We're going to confess that we are not used to using GoToWebinar. All of the web conferencing work that we've done to date has been using Adobe Connect, so if things are a little clunky, it's our fault. And Anne's done a great job getting us up to speed, but we might still do some funny things. Oops, what happened there?
Resume slideshow.
Like that, things like that. So we thought we'd start out by just giving you a little background of where we are. We are, as Anne said, from Montana State University, and this is a picture of our campus with the Bridger Mountains in the background. We are in an absolutely spectacular part of the world, and a fairly rural part of the world, even though we're one of the largest communities in Montana. We serve a population of approximately 15,000 FTE, and we have a variety. We're heavily weighted in science, engineering, architecture, and that, but we do have the liberal studies side of the house as well. Our university is a land-grant university, so our mission is to serve not just our students, but also the Montana state as a whole. So we're a public library, basically. We're open to the public, and we do a lot of outreach work around the state. Anything you want to add to that?
That was great.
Okay. So as we get started here, we'd like to hear from those of you who are on. How many of you are involved kind of with online students? So how many of you, your institutions, offer online classes or programs? You can use that little hand function that Anne was talking about. Give us a little feedback, that'd be great.
Looks like about 50%.
50%, okay. So follow-up question, of those of you who do have online classes or programs, are any of you using web conferencing to deliver any kind of instruction to online students?
One person.
Oh, this one. All right, well, that's interesting. So we'll move on and tell you why you might want to be interested in getting involved in using this technology for these purposes.
So our project, I guess we still refer to it as our project, even though we are 4.5 years in practice or so, but up until about 4+ years ago, what we were offering distance ed students and faculty included a multitude of e-resources available through our library homepage, like so many other libraries, virtual reference options, and my position as a distance ed coordinator, which had begun with my predecessor, our first distance ed coordinator, and I got to take over when she retired. So we've had some services targeting online users, but nothing as far as synchronous library instruction, except what a student could get through chat or perhaps some research assistance over the phone. So our project began when we heard from a colleague who had attended an EDUCAUSE conference program and had gotten to see firsthand another library was doing virtual library instruction through, I think it was Adobe Connect, but through, it doesn't matter what program, but using web conferencing to get a synchronous component into reaching students in a library instruction setting. We, at the same time, have ongoing, I guess, annual teaching innovation grants that are available for us to apply for through our Provost's office. And we thought that would be a pretty innovative thing, would be to integrate real-time library instruction into our current library instruction efforts. And Adobe Connect we happen to choose because our distance ed entity, the office through which distance efforts, programs, and so on are offered was actually purchasing it. So we were actually able to extend our grant even further. We were successful at getting that $1,500 grant, and we were able to extend the grant further by purchasing one room or subscribing to one of 5 rooms within the Adobe Connect package that our distance ed folks purchased, and we bought a bunch of equipment for the whole reference team, trying to get everybody involved and interested in working with their various liaison areas using Adobe Connect web conferencing. So why should we care about synchronous library instruction? Well, we have professional guidelines, ACRL guidelines for distance learning services, the access entitlement principle. Essentially, we should meet the information and research needs of all of our constituents wherever they are, whether they're on campus or at a distance, or maybe somebody doing some sort of hybrid model. Why do synchronous library instruction? In addition to our standards, we historically play a very important role in the education process. We, as librarians, are partners in the teaching and learning process for decades, maybe I don't know how many decades. We've been providing library instruction, reference services, research, consultation for face-to-face students and faculty. But we have a growing distance presence on campus. That sounds funny, distance presence, but growing programs, growing number of courses and entire programs, whether degree programs, certification programs, and whatnot. And the last time we checked with our office that gathers those statistics on campus, they told us that about 9 to 10% of our student body during any given semester is attending a distance program or class, and that number only continues to grow as MSU, like so many other institutions, reaches out to grow distance ed programs. And it's also another ACRL standard for information literacy, again, that we will, information literacy should be provided to all distance learning students. We should try to level the playing field. Additionally, we interpret the ACRL standards for information literacy to we equate that with providing equivalent services. So our mission in applying for that innovation grant and implementing some sort of web conferencing to reach students was really to give a face-to-face component, to give our distance users some face time.
Another impetus, or I guess we consider this support for what we're doing, is our regional accreditation standards. Our standards within the last few years have changed considerably, and this is a new model that we're into probably, I don't know, the second or third year of this new model. And for libraries, the most important thing, as you can see that we have highlighted here on this slide, is for those standards that apply to the library, they really emphasize that everything we're doing should apply wherever things are being offered and however delivered to students. So it's very, gives quite a bit of support to doing more for our distance students. So that's kind of the hows and whys of what we're doing. As with all new programs, new projects, new pilots, things don't always go the way you think they will, and sometimes your assumptions about what's going on change based on what you find out doing a project like this. So I think one of the biggest surprises that we had in starting this project when we started interacting with students was them telling us that before we did this, they had no idea that they were able to use our library. These are students all across the world, basically. We found that out as well. And because they're not here in Bozeman, they really didn't think. They thought they had to find a local library and use it. And I think that was not only a big surprise, but I think for us a huge concern that we have all these, we put in all this effort to make a lot of things accessible to students wherever they may be, but some students still don't know that those things are available to them. Another difficulty we had when we first started was not knowing who the distant students and faculty on this campus were, because our tracking system at that point didn't really indicate a difference in when students registered for a particular class, even that a class was designated that way. So when we started out, that was kind of a surprise as well, because we thought we were going to be able to easily find a list and target the students and faculty that we needed to, and that has taken quite a bit of our time actually, is to identify the courses, identify the faculty, identify the programs that are involved, because it wasn't in one place. It has been improving and getting better, but I think that we got a fairly slow start because we were expecting to be able to hit the ground a little faster with that. We did have some issues with the technology, although we found that web conferencing and the Adobe Connect project, as Marianne mentioned, we got not because it's the best thing out there, but because it was affordable for us. We also were looking, I must say, for a program that would allow us to record. We felt that was really important because there are, free options. Even Skyping would work, but you don't have the option to record these sessions. And we all know that not every student shows up to every session that we might want them to. So having the recording there was really important to us. So when we got the Adobe Connect, it's a pretty powerful program. There's lots of bells and whistles and functionality, but it was surprisingly easy to use. I mean, we basically jumped in without a lot of trial. We just set up our first session and went for it, and didn't worry about using all the functionality, just the basic stuff we needed to, and it seemed to work fine. The issues we have encountered with the technology have been mainly on the student end, and even those have been surprisingly few. One of the first webinars we gave, we had a student who actually tried to come in through dial-up, and obviously that did not work very well, although we were able to send her a copy of the presentation. But we haven't had anyone try to come in that way since, and I think that's increasingly, if students are taking online classes, dial-up isn't working for them, so they have to have a more robust system. We've found that we all are excited. We have our iPads that we use a lot here in the library, and the Adobe Connect, because it uses Flash, did not work with those kind of devices. We have found now that you can actually get Flash converters so that you can use it on an iPad, and we did a presentation a few weeks ago with people who had iPads and were able to follow through. So that's been a nice change, because now we can pretty much support other devices. So those have been really the big issues, surprisingly few hurdles as we got started with this. But a few things, like I said, surprises about what our students are doing out there that it was good to find out about. And as we've gone through this project, we've learned an awful lot. I think that's been probably the most interesting part of this, is learning how to use this technology and use it as effectively as you can. We've come up with a kind of a menu of best practices that we always try to apply when we do a session with students. Because there can be, there's always the potential for technology issues, we ask students, we always set these up so that people log in probably 15 minutes before the actual presentation starts, so that we can do sound checks and make sure that things are working on the students. And the only things we've encountered, other than the early things with devices, Sometimes a connection will just not be that great, and we usually just ask students to log off and log back in, and that seems to clear up the problem. And that's pretty much the biggest technology issue we've had as far as the students connecting. We found that having two of us do a presentation works really, really well for a couple of reasons. One is it's a nice way to break up what can be a fairly static presentation for students. And just looking at a screen can, it takes its toll after a while. We also have a second computer open while we're doing a presentation, and we log in to what the student or the user is looking at, so that we're seeing if there's a lag time or some other issue going on. We can see what the students are seeing. We've also found that depending on the number of participants you have, fielding questions can be difficult. Difficult to do be presenting and then also following what's going on in the chat. We also find that students like to chat amongst themselves while the presentation's going on, and so there can be a lot of chat activity. So if we have the second computer and someone monitoring the student view, they can also monitor what's going on with the chat with the students and field questions, send the questions to the presenter so the presenter can deal with them in a way that works best with the class. So far that has not become a sustainable practice, and it's possible to do it on your own, but we just feel that that's a nice touch, and plus it gives students a couple of people that they now know that they can contact in the library. We found that obviously the length of a webinar can be very important. Once you go after, we figure 45 to 50 minutes is optimal. Once you kind of go over that, people start, the attention span just goes. It's just too much to sit and concentrate on the screen at that time. So we try to keep them relatively. We're also try to keep them fairly focused, because the students that when we're serving them are usually, it's not class time they're using. This is something that's been set up outside of their regular class time, and so we want to make efficient use of that time so they can come in and get what they want but not take up a lot of time. Another thing we found is that we very often have to set up more than one session because we have students all over the world, and they're in different time zones. And so if you have a session in the middle of the afternoon, that may not work for someone on another coast or another country. And so we usually try to pick a couple different days and different times of those days to accommodate the students. We have worked with some faculty who like to send out and get feedback from students about the best time, and we will do that. So we do evening sessions. We've come in on Saturdays and done these, and just trying to accommodate all the students out there. We try to incorporate as much interactivity as we can. Sometimes it is difficult because there's a lot of content to present, but we find that having questions at the beginning, like we did with all of you, we've done interactive polls, and we talk a lot with students in the chat. For example, we try to greet people as they enter the system and find out where they're from, find out a little bit about them. That works when you have a small group. Obviously, it doesn't work so well when you have 40 or 50 students, but it seems like a nice touch in students like that, and then, like I said, they'll start interacting with each other.
We also try to use student topics when we are searching a database such as Web of Science or the ERIC Education Database or whatever. We always come prepared with topics in hand, but we think it's just like a face-to-face library instruction session is so much more authentic if you field student topics and let the students watch you maybe struggle a little bit. When we come in with canned topics, we can make it look too easy and too perfect. So I think it's really a more authentic, genuine experience for students to use their topics.
Makes it more pertinent for them. And then I guess the final best practice is assessment. We've done a lot of assessment all through this project. At the end of every session, we send out a links with the recording to the session so that students can either, if they've attended the live one, they can use it for review, but if they weren't able to attend, there's the recording. And then we always send out a survey link with that, and so we've gotten a lot of really useful feedback as we've gone along. And we'll talk more about assessment a little bit later in the program. So best practices is something we've learned and we try to apply, and we feel like we're pretty comfortable with those now. That they've served us well. Another thing that we found was, Marianne mentioned about giving a face to the library. I think that's another thing that we've found from students that's really important, and why we actually have our webcam on throughout this presentation, is that students really like to see people on the campus where they're taking classes but may never come or very infrequently come to the campus. When we started out, we thought we were going to just kind of show our faces as an introductory thing and then turn the webcam off, but students actually told us that they like seeing us. They like having that the sense that there's somebody there that they know, and we hear from those students after the sessions a lot. I think they feel more comfortable coming back and then asking us questions and things about their research once they do that. So the face part, that contact piece, is really important. And I think we have, even though a lot of our students taking online classes are truly at a distance all over the world, we've also found that a large number of them are right here on campus. They're taking an online course for a lot of different reasons. Maybe it's the only time they could get into that class. Maybe it's a convenience factor, whatever. A lot of them are here on campus, but we're finding that this works just as well whether the students are here in town or at a true distance. They still need this kind of interaction, and it helps them out that way, because they may, again, not be as comfortable coming into the library, but will be more so after a session like this. We also found, we started out with this as a project based on instruction, but the nice thing we found is that Adobe Connect, or web conferencing in general, is really good for a lot of other things. And it's come in handy. We've used it to do, because of the recording feature, you can do a quick tutorial on the fly and post it into your online class that you're teaching, or send it out to a student. That's been very helpful. We've used it for meetings, so we've had several of us have used it when we're planning a conference with other librarians somewhere else in the country, and it's a nice way to get on again, see each other. We've worked with people that we've never met in person, but we've worked with them over the web conferencing to plan a program, and then we've done some presentations that have been totally virtual, and then others we've actually met physically somewhere and done a presentation. So it's been really helpful to do that. And we've also used it just in-house for, we had a colleague who broke his leg a couple of years ago and was housebound for quite a while, so we used the web conferencing software to allow him to still attend meetings that otherwise he would have missed or had to hear about secondhand, and so he was able to keep up with things and contribute even though he had his leg up at home. A couple other things here on, you want to talk about the HERE? I think you should talk about the HERE project.
Sure. Well, as Sheila said, we launched into using web conferencing with a library instruction focus, but we actually got some of our early experience and knowledge about the process and about the particular product by working with other groups on campus. We've actually formed new relations, new collaborations, new partnerships with, for example, we were able to facilitate a grant project that was between our MSU Extension and our College of Nursing, and it was called the HERE Project, or Health Education for Rural Elderly, and we just volunteered to facilitate 5 sessions during a spring semester during which they would present 5 different health-related topics, health literacy, exercise, nutrition, and so on, to 4 groups of seniors in eastern Montana. Yes, we are a really rural state, and especially eastern Montana, and senior citizens would gather in senior in senior centers and watch on a big screen and have a speakerphone, conference phone, and it was a very positive experience. It gave us great experience, and also, again, I think the networking, the partnerships really was a bonus for us too as land-grant university librarians. And we've also done sort of a train-the-trainer model with our Center for Native Health Partnerships on our campus. They have 7 community organizers, one at each of our 7 tribal colleges or reservations, and they are sort of in an educational role on their at their reservations. So we are able to train the trainers on our resources and in particular health resources. And I would say in addition, we continue to learn. We continue to learn about web conferencing, about the ins and outs, peculiarities of Adobe Connect, and also this is a great opportunity to be using this particular software. We've sat in on Illuminate, and there's so many other products out there. But the main point is we weren't experts with the process, the product, when we launched into it. We just launched into it. We practiced a little bit, and they've upgraded the product, and that has been a surprise for us too, is when you're going to do a session, you're going to teach a session, and you haven't done one for a little while, make sure you log in ahead of time, well enough in advance to see if there's been an upgrade that you didn't know about, and there's no surprises that, oh, something has really moved to a different place and I'm not quite sure where it is, and I'm going to plunk around with an audience, a live audience, to find out where it is. But you just have to do it. You just have to launch in. People are very forgiving if you have little glitches or if you bumble a little bit. Our students, our audiences have been so very grateful that we care about them and that we care about giving them a real-time experience.
Yeah, I think that's really been one of the most heartening parts of this whole project, was the response from the users, not only our students but faculty members who felt this was really important. So before we kind of move into the next part of this, does anybody have any questions about the project we've done, the things we found out, nuts and bolts issues? We're really not going into the nuts and bolts of using a particular product, but we're certainly willing to answer questions about web conferencing.
Here we go. Let me bring this up. What is the name of the flash converter you use for iPads?
The one I've been using is called Photon, and it's one, it costs, I think it's like $3.99 or $4.99. It's not a free one, but it seems to work pretty well. I think there are other ones out there, but Photon seems to work just fine. And you have to start up the converter before you open up your web page and start doing anything. You can't, it doesn't do it automatically for you. Any other questions?
Looks like that might be it for now.
Okay.
So, new directions. We have had in place a practice since the very beginning of sending out a SurveyMonkey survey with just a few questions to everybody who either attended live or watches the recording. The faculty members that we have worked with have been very good about sending along just a complete message from us with both a link to the recording and a link to a survey, so we can gather results, so we can continue to hone what we do and figure out what students need if we're not providing what they need. But we decided to take that feedback to a new level, and we actually launched into a research project and working with one discrete program on campus, on our campus, our largest distance program, and I think the longest running distance program, our Master of Science in Science Education, and that has, I think, currently about 300 students in it right now. And the directors of that program sent out our survey, and we've gathered over 100 results, 100 contributors to, has given us great information. So much more extensive than just the few questions we've asked at the end of one discrete library instruction session. And we've learned that 75% or so of our respondents never come to campus. That's a great part of the distance ed program, especially if you live in Dubai or Turkey or Mexico, as some of our participants have. So, and 60% of those who had responded to our survey actually had participated in an online session with us. And we're very glad to hear that 95% of those that responded did report that we actually helped them to be more successful in conducting their lit reviews, their library research. So it's been very heartening for us. We also learned that only 14% of those respondents to our research survey have actually ever worked with a librarian face-to-face or by text, chat, phone prior to their web conferencing experience with us. So, you know, we still have work to do.
Yeah, I think it points out the research. Like I said, we did this survey, and these are just some preliminary results, but I think they pointed out a number of things to us, and that support this effort that we're making, because this is it's actually become a huge piece of our outreach just to get the word out. The instruction is one piece of it. The actual outreach to those students that are taking these classes online that don't know about the support services that they have on campus, I think that's probably been a much bigger piece of this than we anticipated happening. The other nice thing about the MSSE program is the support we've had there from the faculty. This is one program that we don't have to go back to and say, do you want us to do something for you this semester? They're coming to us every semester, and they've used us every semester since we started this to conduct these sessions for their students. So that's been really, really positive to get them on board that way. We hope to, we're working on pulling all this data together, and hopefully we're going to have another report out here soon about what we found out from our students in much more depth than what you're seeing here. It's going to be interesting. And this slide, just a few of the comments. Obviously we picked nice comments. Most of them are. The only complaints we've had from students when we've done any surveys is when the technology didn't work for them. We've had no complaints at all about the content we're providing, the service we're providing. It's just that for some reason the technology didn't work for them that well. They couldn't see it as well as they wanted to. Their screen wasn't quite. If you view these on a really small laptop, you know, they can, it can be hard sometimes to see what's going on. But that's been the only real complaint. Most of the feedback we've gotten from students has been very, very positive, as you can see here. We also found out through that feedback that of our truly distant students, we thought we were going to have a lot of them out, kind of rural Montana folks, as you know, thinking of our land grant mission, that we would be serving those folks. But the vast majority of the truly distant students are not in Montana at all. They're all over the country and all over the world. Marianne mentioned some places. We've had a lot lately from Shanghai for some reason in our classes, but which is always exciting. But that was interesting that they weren't our rural Montana folks that we thought. So, as we've said, we've been doing this project for about 4 years now. We have quite a bit of data collected. We've done quite a few sessions, but we feel that there's more yet to do with this whole program. We don't think that we've done everything that we could. And I think one of the biggest things is that we do want to grow the program. We have As I said at the beginning, it was hard for us to even identify our audience. We had to do a lot of work doing that. Now we have better information about what faculty are doing distance classes and the ability to reach students, but we still haven't, even though we've been really successful with MSSE, it hasn't translated necessarily to other things going on on campus. So we really need, we feel, to do a lot more work in that regard to get the word out about the success of this program and how it can benefit students.
We decided that we need to draft a marketing plan, that we can't just have random efforts here and there. We need a more concentrated marketing effort, and therefore we should draw ourselves up a plan for how we're going to do that and be consistent and continual.
I think the other thing that has been somewhat of a disappointment to us is that, as Marianne said at the beginning, we used our grant money to get access to this Adobe Connect room, and we also bought the equipment needed, the webcams and so on, for all of the members of our reference team. Our reference team isn't huge, but there are more of them than just the two of us, and we've been a little disappointed in that the others haven't used this as extensively as we had hoped. In fact, I don't think anybody's doing consistent work like we are. And so we feel like we have to do a lot of internal marketing as well to try to help us grow the program, because we can't do this all by ourselves. One of the positive things that's happened is another thing that we do here in the library are workshops, kind of drop-in workshops that we hold on how to use a database, how to use EndNote Web, how to use Zotero, how to use Dropbox, things like that we hold that's primarily our on-campus community. And we started hearing, we actually have faculty based in other communities in Montana. We started being contacted from them saying, well, we want to come to these workshops as well, but we had just the physical components. So that's been one way that we've been getting other librarians involved in this project, is by doing those workshops online. And we just started doing that this spring, and that's been a fairly positive angle on this, and I think we'll get people more comfortable with using the technology and more thinking outward as far as doing this for their distance students. Of course, some of the liaisons, because of the departments that they're serving on campus, they may not have a lot of students that are actually in distance classes. So that's been another part of that. It's not necessarily that they don't want to use this technology. It's that they don't necessarily have the students out there that are taking classes that way. So we have some, like I said, internal and external marketing to do to grow the program, and I think that's our biggest next step, is to try to grow this program and make sure that everyone out there who is involved in distance knows that this is available to them. And I think that's it. If you want more information about our project, we do have a couple of articles, including our chapter with IGI, and it's available if you'd like more, and you can contact us as well if you have any questions or need more information about this. So I'm going to change presenters back. Thank you very much for attending. We're going to go into Q&A now, and Anne is going to field those questions to us. Okay. Did I do the right thing, Anne?
I think I can do it like this. Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Any questions, anybody? We got a couple thank yous.
Oh, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Please, if you think of questions after this, please contact us. We're at our first dot last name at montana.edu, so it's pretty easy to send us an email if you want.
We really would love to hear from you if you're the one person who is using web conferencing and anybody considering it. We would love to hear from you and chat because we learn so much from others who are doing it or about to do it.
Jenny asked, is there an example of one of your classes that we can view?
Yeah, if you want to email us, we could send you a link to a recording. We'd be happy to.
And Denise said, you mentioned you received grant money, but I don't recall where you received the grant from.
We have a Center for Faculty Excellence on campus, which is out of our provost office. And every year they have a pot of money for what they call instructional innovation grants. So it's a campus initiative.
John asked, if you don't get more buy-in from your colleagues, would you consider it a success if just the two of you continued to do it?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think, if nothing else, we've got the one program on campus that uses our services consistently, and I don't see that changing. It's definitely worth it. So, yeah, even if we're the ones that are doing it, we'll continue because we feel so strongly about the importance of this outreach to our distance and online users. And we're continuing to explore other ways to reach them. Even though you have one tool, obviously reaching distance students, there needs to be, just like your face-to-face students use multiple ways to do that. I feel like we need to do the same thing online, is provide different kinds of opportunities to bring those students in.
Anyone else? We've got a couple more thank yous.
Well, you're welcome.
Elise said, thank you, you presented some new information. I never considered synchronous classes, but I will discuss the option with my colleagues.
Oh,
wonderful.
Great. Let us know if we can help.
I'll give it just one more minute, but it looks like that might be about it. I believe that's all of our questions.
Okay. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. All right, just to wrap up real quickly, thank you everyone for joining us today. A few of you did ask for copies of the recording, and everyone will be emailed a copy of the recording of today's presentation. You will find a presenter's research in the book, Interactivity and E-Learning, Case Studies and Frameworks, which features the book series Advances in Game-Based Learning. Another one of our popular book series, which is particularly relevant to this discussion today, is our Advances in Library and Information Science, or ALIS series. It is comprised of 18 high-quality research-oriented publications dedicated specifically to the development and trends affecting public, school, and academic libraries. This research on professional and organizational considerations in library and information resource development and management assist in showcasing the latest methodologies and tools available in the field today. Next month's symposium will feature Edward Iglesias of Central Connecticut State University, along with Marshall Breeding, who is an independent consultant specializing in the area of library technologies. The presentation will be entitled The Inevitability of Automation, Robots in Academic Libraries. This presentation will discuss the role of automation and the necessity to adapt to evolving systems and procedures in libraries. I'll get more information out to everybody in the upcoming week for that. Once again, thank you everyone for joining us today. Special thanks to our presenters today. Thank you ladies who took the time out of their schedules to enlighten us in their specialized field of research. We hope to see everyone at our upcoming presentations. Again, if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to contact me or our presenters today. You can use the email address or the phone number on screen. So that concludes our presentation. Thank you all so much.